Hello everybody, how are we all? Paul79 here, hope you're safe and well. It's been a long time since I've said that, to be fair. But yeah, so I thought, so what I'm doing today is, I'm doing like a little mini series thing. I haven't decided where I'm going to make this for sort of public consumption. This is more to help the actual people that are doing the building of these cars, which there isn't many people about, to be fair. But, you know, I do get asked a lot of questions by a lot of different people about how I actually fit the kit and what we need to do, etc, etc. Now, you know, a new dimension, those people are on hand to help with any queries, really. But, you know, I've actually got the car here. I'm in the process of doing a build, so I thought I will do a series of videos that talks about how I sort of strip the car, prepare the kit, put the kit on, etc, etc. There's no script. I'm just going to ramble on about, you know, and anything that comes to mind I will say, so you're going to have to listen very carefully because I'll say it only once. Who remembers the low from those days? Oh, I wasn't meant to do any jokes today, but anyway, so this is what we're going to do. So today we're going to focus on sort of talk you through a few things about the tools I use to do the kit and prep the kit, and also we're going to talk about the front, right? Because that's quite, I wouldn't say easy. I mean, none of it's really hard. A lot of it is hard work, but the front is quite straightforward compared to the back. So let's start with the easy thing to start with. So in terms of the tools that you really need when you do any kit car, especially with fiberglass, is you need these things called power files, right? They're pretty cheap, you know, 20 to 40 quid, get them off Amazon, blah, blah, blah. They might be called belt sanders and stuff like that. But basically, yeah, it is just what it is, a power file. And these are fantastic for sort of cutting out holes in fiberglass, etc, etc. I have a couple here. Some are heavier than others. You know, you need a variety of these belts, belt sander belts, you know. I have them in various grits. If you're just wanting to, you know, butcher a panel, you know, get a 40 grit, that's probably the harshest you can get, maybe a 20. But I just buy tons of these, and I have them all hanging up here in various grits because I've used loads over the years. You will use this a lot, and it will save you a lot of time. Another thing is you're going to need an angle grinder anyway, because you've got to cut away metal. But you can also use the angle grinder to help you cut out some of the holes on the car, on the kit, sorry. And I know I've got like a metal cutter in here, but imagine I had an angle grinder with like a belt, with a sort of a sanding plate around one. I haven't got any at the moment, but basically you'd have something like that, you know. And the beauty is, some of the holes you need to cut out, you want to use a technique called back trimming, right? Now, how do I describe that? So let me get something. So I've got this box here, right? Now, if I said to you, can you cut out the bottom of that hole, bottom of the box, yeah? So the hole was completely gone, yeah? This isn't the best box, really. I want something a bit more square. I don't know if I've got anything, really. Oh, I could use one of these, couldn't I? Where is, sorry, a bit unprofessional. Right. If I said to you, can you cut out the bottom of that, right? How would you do it? Well, there are a couple of ways you could do it. You could drill some holes there and then use a file or a knife or a saw or whatever to cut it out, and then you could file it back so it was complete square, yeah? The thing about back trimming is, that's actually the thing that I just described there is actually quite difficult to do. With back trimming, what you do is you get your sander. Imagine this is my angle grinder spinning around, and all you do is you grind away that lip, yeah? And if you can imagine, if I went like that, and ground away that lip, eventually that lip would not exist. And if I did it all the way round, imagine this is a perfect square sort of shape, yeah? If I did that all the way round, suddenly this bit in the middle would just pop out because there's got nothing to hold on to. And then you'd have a perfect square or rectangular hole. And that's what back trimming is, yeah? And we use that a lot on some of the holes on the kits, because when they come out the moulds, you often have fiberglass in holes that you need to get rid of, right? And often the easiest and the most efficient way to do it is to use the back trimming technique. Now, I used it a lot on the Ferrari when I did that years ago. I can't remember now how much I did on this one, to be fair. But, you know, if you think about, you probably can't see very well, I'll show you later, but see this big hole here, right? When that came to me as a kit, this was all filled in. And it had, have I got a piece of cardboard? I haven't got a piece of cardboard. That'll probably do. Can you imagine? There was a bit of fiberglass that basically went from here to the top there, yeah? So to cut that hole out, all I didn't just cut it like that, I just back trimmed it, all the edges, right? And then suddenly the whole thing pops out. So that's what back trimming is. So they're the sort of tools you need. Obviously you need a hand file as well, and some sort of like 80 grit, no, 40, no, this is 80 grit paper, you know. All I would say is when you're preparing the kit and stuff like that, just take your time with it, and, you know, measure twice, cut once, you know, that phrase, that's very true in anything you do here, because, you know, you cut the fiberglass off, it's a lot more difficult to put it back on. And believe me, I've made the mistakes. So, but yeah, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to just talk you through the front of the car, exactly what I do and what order, and we'll take it from there. Okay, see you later. Bye. Right. Okay, so this is my car. I've lifted it up on the ramp a bit so I can show you other bits. But at the end of the day, pretend this is a Boxster. Yeah, you got two front wings, you got a bumper and a bonnet, right? Now, the first thing you need to do when you get your Boxster is start stripping it. So let's talk about the front, right? You need to take the bumper off, bonnet off, and the wings off. All very straightforward. Just go on YouTube, you're bound to find some videos that will show you how to take a Boxster front bumper off. There'll be under bumper covers here and all that. There'll be billions of screws that you need to take out, but it is all very easy. I can strip one of these cars in a day, I reckon. Everything comes apart very, you know, straightforward. And yeah, so I would do things in stages. So strip the front, and, you know, things like where you disconnect light, you know, you're going to have to take lights out, you're going to have to undo things, take things like your number plate off and all this sort of stuff. But in essence, right, the Boxster bumper secures to holes along here. When you open it up and you start stripping out all your trim, obviously all the trim in here you need to keep. So just take it out. Don't worry too much about where bits certain go. There's tons of videos on there that will show you photos of things, and, you know, even or as you take things apart, like all of this trim, just get someone to record it or record it yourself, so then when you come to fit it back in a few years time, you won't have forgotten. But yeah, you need to take all the trim out here. That'll expose all the holes, the bolt holes here for the wings. You undo all of them. One thing to bear in mind is on the Boxster, the front wings are attached, to, where are they? They're attached to, there are a couple of screws here. I can't even remember now, to be fair. But basically the front wing is, you see how I've secured my RS wing here with these bits here? There's a similar sort of setup on the Boxster, right? And the thing is you'll undo all of those bolts. You'll think it comes free, but you need to get rid of them. The annoying thing is to get to them, you take the doors off, or you have to take the washer bottle out, because that's where the washer bottle sits. So you need to remember there. They're a bit of a bitch to get to, if I remember. But then what you'll have, and then on the front bumper, again, the front bumper on the Boxster will sit on, there's like a shelf here, and it'll have, look, I've even reused the bolts from the original front bumper, yeah? It sits on this sort of shelf here, and then that will come out. You'll have to take all your lights out, as you take your lights out, the wiring, what I would do is just label everything up. So when you take the headlight out, just cover it in a bag like this and label that as the headlight. When you take the indicators out, blah, 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 just label it all up. Don't worry about the wiring for now, but you just need to know, it will help you in the long run of when you come to do the wiring, which is a bit daunting. It will save you a lot of time in the long run, because you'll know what it is, because by that point you might have sold your headlights or you might have sold your indicators and all that. So that's what you need to do. So just as you take your time when you start stripping it, it's not difficult. Like, a lot of it comes apart very easily. Take the bonnet off. You can sell the bonnets for quite good money, to be fair, but don't get rid of your bonnet hinges, because you'll need them, because you use them for this one. What else do I need to talk about? I'm gonna have a break, one sec. So we're still talking about stripping the car. Yeah, so all of this, there's plastic trim here that covers the battery and all of that. Take that all off. Take your windscreen wipers off. Just completely gut the car, right? Because the more sort of access you have to certain things, the better. And you won't be putting it back on until your car's painted anyway. By completely stripping this area out, you'll have access to run wires through to the cabin if you want to, etc, etc. What else do we talk about? Stripping the car. That's about it, really. All you need to take off is basically the two wings, the bumper and the bonnet, yeah? And then you'll be left with sort of, you know, a Mad Max type car with no front body, okay? And what I'll do is, at the end of these videos, I'll stick in some photos that I've got of me and what my car looked like when I stripped it all down for the first time before I started fitting the kit, all right? So once your car is bare, right, before you even think about putting a panel on, right, you need to do other things, right? I'm sorry, I know you want to rush to get it on and make it look like a GT3 RS, but there are so many other things you really should focus on before you start putting the panels on, purely for the reason of access, yeah? Now, the thing is the Boxster, the biggest wheels the Boxster ever came with was 19s. The RS takes 20s. And they're slightly wider as well. And the thing, what you have to do, switch my light on, is you have to move these radiators forward. Now you'll see what I mean when when you strip your car, and also you'll see what I mean when you've got like the wheel off, and you'll see my photos. But what you need to do is you need to extend the pipes, right? Because you need to move that whole sort of unit forward. And I've done videos on this, but if you look, let's, oh my knees, if you look here, right, where my finger is, that used to be mounted there. So you can see what I've done, I've moved it forward and down, right? And that's what I've done on both the top and the bottom of these radiators, yeah? And you need to do this. And the best time, believe me, is to do it when you don't have a kit in the way, yeah? Trying to do that, a lot of people rush and get the panels on. But believe me, it will waste you so much time if you think about doing that moving forward once your kit is in place. Now, I don't permanently fix the front of the car, the RS kit to the car. In theory, I could take it off. I don't glue it on. Some people do glue it on, but I don't feel you need to be fair, because at the end of the day, the way it works, it's screwed into the car body, right, at various points, and we'll talk about that later. And it fits just like the in theory it fits just like the Boxster panels do, right? It's just put on, right? I'm sort of going a bit all over the place here, but I'm sure you're taking notes. So you've stripped your car, it looks like this. Move the radiators forward. While you're doing that, you're probably going to break your crossover pipes because they're 15 years old. So you've got to change your crossover pipes, because believe me, you'll be annoyed when you finish your car and then it starts leaking, because it always happens. It happened on my white one. I know another guy it happened to, and it's just annoying, yeah? Doing the crossover pipes is not particularly difficult. It's a bit awkward, and the higher you can get the car off the ground, the better. But Google or go on YouTube, look at crossover pipes, Porsche Boxster, Porsche Cayman, Porsche 997. You'll see what you need to do. It's pretty easy. If you're going to attempt to build one of these, doing the crossover pipes would be a piece of pie. I couldn't say a swear word there. It will be easy peasy. You have to lower the subframe down, but again, those videos will show you. But all I'm saying is you just got to do it in the right order, because believe me, you'll get annoyed if you have to do all this sort of stuff with a kit in the way. Yeah. So the crossover pipes, I mean, the thing, and then other things like the wiring for the headlights and all of that. I did that all before I put a panel on, because again, it's just access really. You don't want all this crap in the way when you're trying to do your wiring. I've done a lot of wiring here, you can see. We've talked about that on other videos, but it is just a lot easier, yeah. And again, I know it's like, oh, I want to make it look like an RS as soon as I can, but it really isn't worth it. So yeah, I would recommend doing the wiring before you put the panels on. If you're going to put air ride in, you need to put coilovers in. So there's my coilovers. I've done my air ride already. I actually did the air ride after the panels, to be fair. It's actually not that bad, to be fair. But I definitely did all the wiring beforehand. What else? Third radiator. I mean, these are all extras that I have. But I put a third radiator in. Again, that needed fabricating to make it sit properly because of the way. So the thing is the third radiator connects to the two side radiators, right? With extra pipes, it just goes in the middle. And the thing is because you move this whole unit forward to clear the wheels, the standard third radiator kit doesn't line up with the bracket, so I had to make extra ones. Again, doesn't matter, there's plenty of room here behind the bumper, so the bumper doesn't need to be on while you do it. And of course, if the bumper is on, it's going to get in your way. So just do stuff like that before you put your kit on. All right. I'm just trying to think of other things here. Not a lot really. Before we start talking about the actual fiberglass panels. So you can see the stage I'm at. I've done all the wiring. That's all good. Air ride. Talk about the bonnet hinges, right? You get these brackets with the kit that attaches to the original bonnet. You still use the original bonnet hinges, but what you need to do is these gas rams, right? You'll know this when you take off your Boxster bonnet. Your Boxster bonnet is very light, right? I couldn't believe how light it was, right? It's amazing, really. But this bonnet is a lot heavier, right? And the thing is the gas rams that you come from the 987 Boxster, just not strong enough. All you need to do, replace your Boxster 987 gas rams with Boxster 986 ones. The 986 bonnet was a lot heavier, and the gas rams that came for it were a lot more powerful. So just do that. They're exactly the same size, just more powerful. So that's what we do there. And then that enables the bonnet to stay open. Otherwise, it's going to bang your head. All right? Right, let's talk about the panels, right? Because depending on how you acquired your kit, the panels might be in different stages of prep, etc, etc. But at the end of the day, these come out of molds, yeah? So all these holes will have fiberglass here that you need to cut out. So let's start with the bumper, right? Now, you need to cut out all of these holes like that, right? And certainly for the DRLs, and you'll see this, you'll need to trim back all of this fiberglass to it's quite sort of thin, yeah? You need to get rid of all of that. You still need a lip there. That lip is about 0.5 centimetre. But again, you probably need your DRLs before you start trimming it back to make sure they're fit, because you don't want to trim it back too much and there's no lip at all. right? So you can see here, I've obviously tested all of this, and you know, so I've trimmed it back, and you can imagine what a real bumper looks like. A real bumper is going to have this sort of lips around here, so it all sits flush. Your grills, you're going to hand make these grills that go in here. But yeah, you just want to make it neat, yeah, because you think about it, you don't want the body shop to spend extra time and money at your expense making these good, right? These holes, these will be filled in, and on my white car I kept them filled in and just painted it black. Your kit might have some fiberglass sort of cup thing to go in there. Didn't work for me, so all I've done is on this one I've cut it out, and again I'm just going to put another grill in here. This one again, pretty self-explanatory. You just cut it out. You just want to make it as neat as possible, yeah. I've gone a bit crazy with the angle grinder and the file. Look, I've got all these nicks here, but basically the body shop will sort that out for me. There'll be a mark for the headlight washers. Feel free, you know, you don't have to have headlight washers. I do, because both of my Boxsters came with Xenons, so they've got headlight washers. So yeah, I've cut them out. Don't go too crazy with the hole. You know, once your kit's mounted, you could leave that and do that afterwards. Yeah, that's not a big deal, to be fair. All along the edges here, right? Let's turn my light on. All along these edges here, you want to neaten them up, yeah. And also, before you even put the car on, you want to have that bumper on the bench and neaten up the bottom of this, yeah. I know it'll all be painted black, and this is meant to be the splitter that's actually on the real car rubber and a separate piece, but you want to make sure that that's flat. You got to remember, this comes out of a mould, and the guys that do the mould basically just trim off excess, but they don't do it necessarily very carefully. They don't trim too much off, but they will just trim it bang 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 so it's a piece and it looks like a bumper, for example. But you need to be careful and actually neaten it all up, and be prepared for sort of faults in the mould. Look here, this hasn't come out very well for me, and I've got this sort of air bubble here and it's gone, so that's going to need to be filled in by the body shop, right? But all the sort of bits you can get to, again, you need to cut this out. This will be filled with the grill, right? It's not like you're fitting a pre-made grill. It's like you just want to make it so it looks good, yeah, it looks all right, you know. This will have a grill underside it, and the grill will be glued underneath these bits here where my fingers are, and you'll put it through and you'll let it set. But yeah, you just need to make things as best you can. You can see here, look, I don't know what I did there so long ago, but yeah, that's a bit knackered. That's going to need to be filled in by the body shop. But there you go. You need to create some space here in the bumper for the indicators. You don't need to do that before you mount it. I won't worry about that until you got your bumper on, right? Let's talk about the wings, right? So the wings are wings. I think I had to cut the holes out on these ones, but yeah, again, there'll be a sort of a shape that you can see that you need to cut to, yeah? So just take your time, get it as best you can. You don't want to do it too thin, you still want a lip there, yeah? But you know, just cut the hole out. If we look on this side, you'll have an indentation for the petrol flap. That'll be filled in. You'll need to cut that out. But take your time with it. And again, you're probably going to need this thing when you do that. You probably could do that on the car. You can certainly cut the big... You can certainly make the big hole off the car. But once it's sort of on the car, it's probably best to sort of fine tune the hole. All I would say is the hole you cut out, take your time with it, because it needs to be quite big, but you don't want to go too wide, because this basically, and I can't show you it really, it's quite difficult to get this sort of petrol flap cup in. You need some bit of a lip to rivet it to, and you can see how it is. It's just riveted top and bottom, so just drill a hole there, rivet, that's all you need, yeah. This cup is about 100 quid, No, well, it's at least 50. This flipping plate thing from Porsche is it's about 70 quid. It's a lot of money. So you don't want to fuck it up. Sorry, you don't want to muck it up. But yeah, that's another thing you need to do. And then the wing panels will have these sort of flitches here, which is what you use to mount it to the car. You'll have a couple of sort of extra bits here, yeah, that basically attaches to the car body, and another one there, right? Now this is a big trial and error thing, boys and girls, because you can see where the original Boxster wings mount, yeah? This thing doesn't come as far. Now don't worry about the gaps, because all the trim panel you take off will cover all of this, and your body shop will say you paint your car blue, you paint all that blue to there, and then this will all be painted black anyway, right? So you don't necessarily notice it, but you can see you want to neaten things like this up. I mean, again, this is chipped off here. My guys will just sort of sort that out there. But you can see how it mounts to the actual car body. You see, I have to have spaces in here to get the height right. And what I've also done to make it even more secure, is I've added extra sort of L brackets here and put spaces in there, and I've actually riveted it to the car. You could screw it to the car, but I find that the rivets are better. You can always get rid of rivets, just looking for my rivets. But anyway, there's some quite long rivets that go through here into the body. I mean, this is just all metal, yeah, and you can get to it from the underside, yeah. You could bolt it, to be fair, but rivets obviously stronger than bolts. They won't come loose, but if you do need to reposition it, you can just drill them out, yeah. So this whole wing is mounted with a rivet there, and then that there, and then that there. I've even got two here, 1, 2. So you can see that's the original kit, and then that's an extra one I've put in. I mean, the more secure it is, the better. And often, you know, you're going to have to play around with the spaces here to get them working right. Okay, you got to remember, this kit was not designed on a computer. It was designed in a garage, and you know, it's not perfect by any means, but it certainly does the job, and it's a fantastic kit. But there's going to be, you know, tolerances you need to account for. This is why when you fit this kit, you need to have, really ideally, your wheels, right? Because then you can make sure that the arch gaps, like this gap here, is the same both sides, or as close as you can get it. In terms of the bonnet, there's not a lot to do to the bonnet, to be fair. It comes as it is. You reuse the original bonnet catch. There's pre-sunken bolts in there, or nuts in there to screw it to, where you attach this bracket that comes in the kit. There's pre-drilled bolt holes in there. Just be careful, you know, don't keep necessarily doing it up and taking it off really tight, because eventually those pre-drilled and sort of glued nuts in there will come away. You need to be a bit careful. The brackets you get here, this sort of long thing here, it's got plenty of adjustment. You might need to make the holes bigger, left and right and up and down. There's a lot of fine tuning that's required to get it working correctly, but that's the fun. In terms of, like, you don't need to really trim anything down on the bonnet. It should fit. You use it as a reference point to sort of get your wings right and your gaps. I mean, by any means, my gaps are not perfect. I know I haven't. My body shop will sort all of this out. It's not too bad, to be fair, but it's never gonna be, and this is the thing, it's never gonna be like a production car, right? You got to remember, you know, once this shuts, as long as it doesn't rub on each panel, I think that's probably good enough. Body shops can do wonderful things and actually make the gaps better. But even on the gaps on my white one, they're not perfect, but you don't notice it in the grand scheme of things. So in terms of actually how, I'm gonna have a break. So while we're here talking about the wings, you know, again, this bit here, you want to neaten up. Again, don't do it too thin. But again, when you're putting this whole front section on, you want the doors here to make sure that gap is reasonable. The worst thing you want is when you open the door for it to catch. So again, a lot of trial and error, I'm afraid. Obviously, you want to leave this as thick as you can, but there is going to come a point where you have to trim it down a bit to allow the door to open. And to be fair, I actually haven't done that brilliantly, but it works, yeah, because it doesn't catch. The smaller the gap, the better, obviously, but it can't be too small. What else? So that's the sort of panels, and in terms of what you need to prep them, the way the bottom of this wing fits, it actually fits to this sort of side skirt part, but I wouldn't worry about that to us really when you're putting the front on, because you can sort of adjust that later, right? Now, in terms of how you actually fit these together, bonnet is just a bonnet, right? I would just leave the bonnet last. The only way you're going to get this to fit on your car is you have to bolt the wings to the bumper first and create like a U-shaped thing. Do not try and put the wings on first and then fit the bumper up. The reason being is this is moulded off a real car, and the real bumpers and panels, or the bumper anyway, will be a lot more flexible than the fiberglass. This fiberglass is super strong, right? But it doesn't bend as much. It will bend a little, and it will do your head in trying to get it to marry up. So the only way to do it, and the other thing about it is the width of this car, the Boxster, and what you're mounting it on is slightly narrower, sort of like the body part, than the real Porsche, right? So if you can imagine, I'm going to try and hold this in, I'm not going to be able to do this, but basically you've got this U shape that you're mounting on, and it can move sort of like this way. Trying to do it now, I can't do it with two hands, with one hand, but basically you've got this U shape. Oops, let's open this up. You've got this U shape that you're trying to sort of marry up, yeah? There'll be a hot, and the way the actual whole thing mounts is, so you've got your U shape. In fact, I haven't talked about this bit yet, have I? So there'd be things on the flitches here where these two bits meet together that you think are the mounting points. I would ignore them to a certain extent, and you wanna, and it depends on how your kit comes out of the mould and stuff like that. Remember, this isn't going to be like a real car, but at the end of the day, you want to bolt these two pieces together and get that as close as possible, right? You'll never get that gap perfect. Don't worry about it. Your body shop will fill it and then cut a new line. That's what they've done on my white one, right? Try and get this as best as you can. And again, the way the bumper mounts to this bit of the wing, you have to drill holes and bolt it together, yeah? A lot of trial and error. Just take your time with it. Like I said, you'll never get this gap perfect, but it can be refilled and then recut so it looks like a gap by your body shop. But the idea is, you can see how you're trying to line it up. You're trying to line that up there, that up there. You're trying to line this line up here. Again, the body shop can make that good if it's slightly out. Yeah, try and line that up there. And you create your U shape that you then lower onto the car. All right. When you put it on, I'd probably advise, get your wheels out of the way so they don't get in the way, and just get it on there, yeah? What you'll see is, once you've stripped your Boxster, you'll see there's like a shelf here with holes where you can bolt them in. There'll be a centre hole on your RS bumper here. Create your hole there and just use the original thing to at least try and get it as centred as possible, yeah? then the rest will move around. I mean, this will move a bit here, this will move a bit here, blah, 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 blah. And you'll find when you put it on, these bits will bing, bing, like that. But you almost have to squash it together. It's like putting a square peg in a round hole. You sort of need to squash it together to make it work. And it will work, and it will do your head in, but it will work. But, you know, this is where another pair of hands will come in handy. It will stick out. These will go bing like that, bing like that. Get that center point there, and maybe if you can get these center point, secured, so at least it's sort of firm there. And then what you can do is you can work on making this side good, yeah, by pushing it in here and securing it this way. Again, it's not easy. The way I'm actually talking about it is sort of, and I've done 4 of them. It's a bit scary. But yeah, you know, you can see you want to line up this part of the wing with the bottom of the Boxster. So there's a little gap there. You can see here I've attached the wings here. I did that after the event, right? I basically secured it. In fact, look here, you can see how I've secured it at the bottom. It's just 2 screws that screw in. It's bonded as well when I'm finally happy with it. But it's screwed in there into the Boxster metal and also this side panel, right? But the beauty of, like, you know, putting these extra brackets in here and all these things is you can then adjust the height, yeah? Because you can pull it out a little bit, push it in a little bit, make it come out here, make it go in there, to then really line up with your door. But, so in terms of, like, secure it here, work at a side at a time. Remember, you've got to have your doors on to make it sort of line up, and just sort of take your time with it. Even if you don't rivet it or bolt it straight away, you know, just have things in place to sort of get it, you know, secure as best you can, and then sort of work your way round and do this side. And then you'll put your bonnet on, and the bonnet will be all over the place. So there is a lot of fettling, if that's a word. There's a lot of fettling to get it right. Okay. Once you've got it right, then you can just properly, permanently secure it with either proper bolts, screws, rivets, whatever you want to do. Then with your bonnet, you know, you might find that the way the bonnet shuts, it goes down too low on a side or too high. This is why I put in these little bump stops here. They're just purely designed to make sure when the bonnet shuts, it lines up as best it can with that. And the other thing is you really, when you line up the bonnet, you want to be doing it with the catch and secured, because when this is down, right, this bonnet will bend slightly like that. Not too much, but you need to account for that. So at the moment it's not shut, but it's high at the end here. But those bump stops, wherever they are, there, when it goes down, it will be flush. I've got quite a bad gap there, really, to be fair. But hopefully my body shop can make it good. But yeah, so I won't underestimate the amount of sort of fannying around you're going to need to do to get that looking how you want it, right? And you still won't get it perfect. None of mine are perfect. But when you, and the thing is you're sort of, you become obsessed with it to a certain extent, because you're constantly looking at it, right? I have this with the arches, right? I've got the arches to within 5mm difference either side, and it's like, oh, I still can't get it perfect. But once it's all done and painted, you sort of forget about those things. And the thing is, you can't look at a car either side. Okay, I mean, I try and get it less than 5mm, but you know, there comes a point where you just can't get it any better, right? And it's the same with the back, trying to make the back fit so the wheels stick out the right side, the right distance either side. Every kit is different when it comes out the mold, yeah? Every car you put it on is different. So there needs to be a bit of sort of, I suppose, give and take, really, and sort of acceptance that it's not a production car. It will never be like a production car. but once it's all done and painted and you're driving around in it, people will not notice it, and you won't notice it either, right? There is stuff on the white car that I did that that did my head in, and I thought I'll never be happy with that. But then once it's sort of done and you look at the bigger picture, it's all good. Before I forget, I'll talk about the headlights holes, right? Now, when you put your headlight in, you'll know, but you do need to trim back a lot of this, right? But when you're doing your kit, I wouldn't worry about it until it's on, right? Because until you've got your headlights as well to make them fit, it's not worth worrying about. I mean, stuff like this, you can trim up with the car, with it on the car, and all good, yeah? Things like this, cutting that out is a pain in the arse if it's on the car, right? All these holes. Stuff like that is pretty easy, right? So just worry about that. When you get your kit, you'll have much more of a lip here all the way around. And again, you do need to trim it. And, you know, obviously the more you can leave, the more fiberglass you can leave, the better. But there will, certainly at this top bit, the way it fits in and locks in, it does need to be trimmed back. But worry about that sort of afterwards, and you're doing your headlights. Do your wiring before the kit, but yeah, the headlight and the hole, worry about that afterwards. Another thing I need to talk to you about is when you unbolt your Boxster wing, what you'll see, you can take your headlight out, you'll see that the wing has the headlight tray that the whole thing sits on built into the wing. Now on this kit, it's not, it's a separate piece. And I don't know if these will come out. No, they're not going to come out, I bolted them. But basically this tray bit here has to be put in afterwards, yeah? It's not part of the wing, it's separate. And again, that's a bit of a ball ache, you have to trim a lot back. But if you actually look at these rivets, so that rivet there and that rivet there attaches the wing. These two rivets are the underside of the headlight tray, yeah? And if you look, you can see how it's bonded, it's affixed, this headlight tray to that. And then the headlight tray bolts to this inner flitch, this return that's on the wing, all right? So again, you can sort of worry about them afterwards, really. It's still a bit of a ball ache, and the thing is trying to do it with the wing off might sound easier, but you'll never sort of get it in the right position. You really need the wing and the bumper sort of together, so you've got the headlight hole there to then put the headlight in and work out where you need to mount the tray. It's quite difficult getting it right, but it's doable. You can't reuse the Boxster headlight trays. You need special headlight trays for the 911. They should come with your headlight. But I trim a lot of this back here. This comes in a big sort of, if you look at your headlight tray, it'll have all this sort of returns and lips here. I trim it all back so I can get the key in easier to release the headlights, because this is the key. And it's a bit like the Boxster ones. This is the key that pops the headlight out. And I might even, I don't know, I was thinking about creating a hole here so I can actually release them like the Boxster ones do. But, you know, because if I don't, the only way to release the headlight is to take the wheel off, take the arch liner off to get to that bit there. So there you go. Before I forget, you know, I've got some more bump stops here that help with the bonnet alignment and make it, when it's closed, has a bit of pressure. Yeah, this is just something off eBay. I've probably got one spare somewhere. No, I haven't. But anyway, you know, this is just a bump stop. It's got a bolt. You know, you drill a hole in the body, put a bolt, put a nut there, a nut the other side, and you can adjust the height. You know, once you got it right, thread lock it, and it's good. The bonnet catch, this thing here, you shouldn't need to even change that. But again, if you can't get your bonnet right, you'll be able to move this left and right. And again, you can see here, I've actually had to make the hole bigger on the bonnet catch bit to get it in the right position. This has got a lot of adjustment. This whole thing can go up and down, left and right, blah, blah, blah. And that's the beauty of these kits, is there is a lot of adjustment on certain things to enable you to make it to fit. Okay, that just is standard there like that. That's all linked to the car in the passenger, sorry, in the cabin to release it. But yeah, that you'll spend all weekend on that, getting that right. But it's worth it. You can see here I've trimmed back the kit here because the way mine fitted, it was hitting this part of the body that I can't obviously change, so I've just trimmed that back either side there. You might not need to do that, right? But I mean, for me, when you get your kit, you can see how it's molded off a real bumper. Yeah, so that's you can see that indentation there is where it originally, the real bumper fits to the RS. Yeah, obviously it's not going to, you're not going to use that. So you just need to be careful before you drill any holes, right? Be sure where you're drilling, right? That center one is the most important one, right? Because that's the base for everything. But stuff like this, you know, just neatening up this fiberglass here, making it smooth, you know, try and make it look like a production car, yeah, as best you can. I know a lot of this will be covered up and sprayed black and all that, but it's like just making it the best possible look that you can do. So yeah, I mean, even these sort of things, you know, try and round them up to make them look not so, you know, fake. And you know, that'll all be painted black anyway. All of that'll be black. Thing is, if you go looking for something, you'll see it. But you know, when you open up the bonnet and you look on my white car, it just looks like a production car because all of this is black. You don't notice the fact that you've got these gaps here where the kit and the original Boxster part is. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. Once you got your bumper on, you can try and fabricate some sort of brackets to attach to it to stop it wobbling about, because if you think about it, if you don't have those brackets there, the only way this whole sort of U shape is fitted to the car is these points here. It hangs on this bit here, and that's it. I've put these extra brackets in here, like 1, 2, 3, and then like I've attached this part of the bumper because this will be wobbly if you don't secure it. I've attached that to the underside of the radiator mechanism. I've put brackets all in here, and again, you know, this big radiator sort of structure got loads of place to bolt things to, you know. Then at the front I've got more bracketry here. And again, I will put a mesh on this, yeah, because I don't want to be able to see the ground through these holes. But it just secures the whole bumper up. And it's all unboltable. I've used riv nuts and bolts and stuff like that. So if I had to take the bumper off because it got smashed up and replace it, well, that'd be a ball ache. It all comes apart. So yeah. So there you go. That was the easy bit. But yeah, I hope that's helped. I'll stick some pictures after this of sort of like me stripping the donor and like the front of it to hopefully help you. But yeah, there's a lot actually there. I sort of forget actually all the sort of work that I've done. But yeah, we get there. It's certainly doable. At least there's no welding involved. But yeah, I hope this helps, and send me some comments, messages, Instagram, blah 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 blah, if you've got any other questions. And yeah, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.